Buddha's teachings. Loneliness is the greatest friend. How to attain inner peace. Prologue. The journey of loneliness. In a deep mountain, only the sound of the wind rustling through the trees echoed. The protagonist, Hina, sat quietly, pondering, "Am I really alone?" This question had been hidden in his heart since childhood. Loneliness was an unavoidable fear and a shadow that had always followed him. Hina's father had passed away when he was still young. He took over the small store his father had run and gradually became isolated, overwhelmed by the struggles of business. Loneliness, which he sought to avoid, became a source of fear. Eventually, he distanced himself from those around him, leaving only silence in his heart. One day, while rummaging through his father's belongings, Hina found an old scroll. It read, "When you immerse yourself in the fire of loneliness, the true path will open." The words struck deep within him, challenging his past tendency to flee from loneliness. Determined to understand its meaning, Hina resolved to embark on a journey. Chapter 1. Dialogue with Loneliness. Hina committed to training to confront his loneliness. A new conviction began to grow within him. Loneliness should not be avoided, but rather embraced. Still, he grappled with lingering fear and anxiety. As he traveled through various villages, attempting to connect with the people he met, his solitary nature proved hard to shake. Each conversation brought tension, leaving him frustrated at his inability to express himself. He often blamed himself for being poor at socializing, but the words from the scroll urged him to keep seeking answers. After several days of walking, he reached a deep mountain. There, he encountered a solitary hermit who looked at him intently. "It's been a while since I've seen a lonely soul like yours. If you accept your loneliness and find courage, you will change," the hermit said. Surprised, Hina felt he was on the verge of discovering something important. Through their brief exchange, Hina learned that embracing loneliness was crucial. However, he still struggled to grasp its deeper significance. With newfound determination, he thanked the hermit and continued on his journey. Chapter 2. Confronting Loneliness. As Hina continued his journey, he faced unexpected misfortune. He was ambushed by a band of robbers and, despite his resistance, sustained severe injuries. As he slipped into unconsciousness, he wondered if this was what it meant to immerse oneself in the fire of loneliness. Yet the answer eluded him. When Hina awoke, he found himself in an unfamiliar room, his body racked with pain, realizing he had narrowly escaped death. A kind old woman was watching over him. "You managed to survive. You were almost gone," she said, having saved his life. Grateful for her help, Hina spoke to the woman about his understanding of loneliness. The old woman listened and advised, "It will take time to grasp the true meaning of loneliness. However, this path will undoubtedly become significant for you." Chapter 3. Days of Training. Having recovered from his injuries, Hina continued his journey and eventually arrived at a mountain temple. There he found monks engaged in rigorous training. Hina knocked on the temple door and requested to train. The abbot studied him, noticing the hesitation in his eyes. "Facing loneliness isn't easy, but escaping it will not yield answers," the abbot said. Hina began his days of training. From early morning meditation to studying scriptures, he immersed himself in practice. As he continued, he began to confront his inner self, yet fear of loneliness still lingered. The more he focused on meditation, the more memories of his past solitude surfaced, prompting self-doubt. One day, during meditation, the old woman's words echoed in his mind. "The true meaning of loneliness is still a long way off." That statement sparked a deep inquiry in Hina's heart. What is the true meaning of loneliness? Chapter 4. Exploring the Inner Self. With that question in mind, Hina turned his awareness inward. As he continued to meditate, memories of his younger self surfaced. The child, feeling lonely, wept. In that moment, Hina realized that his fear of loneliness had been present since childhood. He gently spoke to his younger self. "You are not alone. I am here with you." The child wiped away his tears and smiled. "That's right. We are always together." In that instant, Hina experienced a profound realization. Loneliness was not a state of isolation, but an escape from confronting his true self. This revelation transformed him. For the first time, he began to converse with his own soul. Why have I feared loneliness? What will I find within it? As he continued to ask these questions, Hina's heart gradually grew calmer. Loneliness was no longer a fear. It became a time to engage with his inner self. Chapter 5: Dialogue with the Master. Hina's journey of training deepened his understanding of loneliness. His heart grew stronger, and the fear of solitude gradually faded. One morning, he visited his master and shared his insights. "I've realized that loneliness is an escape from myself." The master nodded thoughtfully and spoke softly. "Indeed, loneliness is a trial to face oneself. The courage to confront that trial brings true growth." Upon hearing those words, Hina felt immense gratitude. He realized the importance of facing loneliness and how it led to personal growth. This fueled his determination to continue his journey of self-exploration. Chapter 6: Embracing Loneliness. As Hina continued to practice, he learned the significance of accepting loneliness. He became capable of quietly observing his anxieties and fears, allowing him to embrace them. The tranquility that loneliness provided became a great source of healing for him. One evening, under the starry sky, Hina sat alone in silence. Only the sound of the wind surrounded him, and he found joy in this time spent with himself. Loneliness is the greatest friend, he reflected. He felt a sense of peace and comfort that had eluded him before. Conclusion: living with loneliness. Hina's journey taught him to accept loneliness as a friend rather than fear it. He resolved to embrace loneliness in his life, recognizing it as a vital element that enriched his existence. The inner peace gained through loneliness fortified Hina's spirit, allowing him to begin his life anew. Embracing loneliness deepened his connections with others and provided a means to confront himself. Now Hina smiled, thinking, "Loneliness is my greatest friend. I will continue to walk with it." A new light of hope shone within him, distinct from the loneliness he once knew.